Good evening out there. Good evening. It's Vincent. Hello, Jacqueline. Good to see you. Thank you for having your camera on. Great to see you. Great that you're here. And for everybody on Zoom, I think we have, who do we have? David. I have myself there on Zoom, which is fantastic. Griselda and Deborah. Folks, thank you so much for joining me tonight. And for anybody who's joining on Facebook, on Instagram, YouTube, or wherever, you're all very welcome as well. You'll be able to sit there and enjoy this video about handling loss. So, before we begin, this particular webinar is a practical webinar. So, I'm not going to put you on the spot too much, but I might ask you for examples throughout the webinar, maybe just to get some questions, throw some questions at you, see what you think. And it would be fantastic if you could just put your viewpoint in and your answer into the chat. It'd be great, because it really helps me in that I can get feedback. And I would encourage you to put on your cameras as well if you can. You don't have to, but it would be great if you did, because it helps me to be able to see people out there. I know you're alive and you haven't fallen asleep or gone for a jog while I'm doing the webinar. At least I know you're there, and hopefully I don't bore you to tears to a point where you decide to, I don't know, start watching Netflix or something. So it should be okay. Anyway, start off with, normal thing I do is I ask people to pop into the chat where you're logging in from. So if you're on the other channels like Facebook, YouTube and Instagram, you can put your comments in on the bottom and it will come around to me. I have somebody keeping an eye on that. But for anybody on Zoom, if you could, if you don't mind, pop in a little message into the chat just to let me know where you are logging in from. And it's important for me because I have this very unique sense of humor that not many people get, and I'm worried that if I crack a joke, nobody's going to get it. So that's important for me. But also to kind of, I do like to see where everybody's from. It's not all about me, So if you don't mind popping into the chat where you're from, that'd be great. Thank you so much. David, thank you so much for sticking on the camera, David. Much appreciated. Thank you. Deborah from Loud. Hiya, Deborah. Great to have you. And Jacqueline from Mullingar. Wonderful. Thank you, Jacqueline. Amar from Dublin. Brilliant. And David from Wicklow. Fantastic. I got married in Wicklow in a place. God, I can't forget the place I got married in. Oh dear. It's not too far from Rathdrum. Hang on. It's coming. Oh dear. What's that park you have in Wicklow, David? It's a kind of I can't think of the name of the area. I'm going to be killed by my wife. Dario, switch the subject now quickly. Switching the subject. Dario from Cambridge. Thank you very much, Dario, for joining us. And Griselda from Switzerland. Thank you so much. I'll remember this wedding place at the end of the call. It's somewhere in Wicklow. I just can't remember the town. Vale. Something Vale. Okay, it's something Vale. Okay, that's fine. Moving on. Okay, hopefully my wife doesn't log into the webinar and everything will be fine. Okay, now folks, the webinar tonight that I'm delivering is about loss and about how to recover from a loss. My webinar is going to be based on this book, Dianetics. Dianetics means through the mind. And I discovered this subject in 1992 when I was in Germany. I was traveling in Germany while I was in college. I was studying business studies and personnel management in college. I went to Germany on a working holiday, but I was also kind of in a bit of confusion about what to do about my problems and where am I going in my life and all this type of stuff and how to help people. So I came across this in Munich, in Germany, and I was interested because I was interested in self-improvement and helping people. I don't want to see people sad. I like to see people happy. One of the driving forces in my life is I like to see people doing well. I like to see people with a smile on their face and being successful. So I came across this in 92. I found it interesting. I first of all tried it on other people to see if it worked on them before I tried it on myself. I was so bad. But I wanted to see, is it workable? So I tried it with others. I used the techniques in this to help other people with losses, and it really, really helped. So I got trained, and at a certain point in my training, I decided, you know something, Vincent, you should probably get a little bit of this for yourself. You know, I mean, it makes sense if, you know, unless you think you're perfect, Vincent, maybe you should try some. So I did. I got myself some Dianetics, and initially I thought, maybe it'll help me, I don't know, whatever. But as I'll go over in this webinar, it was very, very effective, and I'm going to explain to you tonight the basic thing you need to know about loss and what you do to clear it up for good. Now, I've been promoting and using the subject for over 25 years. So I was in college in 92, I finished in 93, so from 1993, so how many years is that? It's a fair few years, so 30 years, okay, 30 years doing the subject, so I know a good deal about it. I won't say I'm perfect, but I know a good deal about this subject and how to help other people and what works and what doesn't work from my observation. That's not to say that other people have not techniques that have worked in the past and that are useful. It's not to say that at all, but I find this workable and a very, very good solution. Okay, to start off with, I'll give you a little bit of an example for myself, and it's specifically on this subject of loss. For you to be on this webinar, there must be something about the title that interested you, either for yourself or to help somebody else. So most of us have had losses of some nature. We've had losses of children, of brothers and sisters, parents. You might have lost a girlfriend or a boyfriend or a husband or a wife through divorce. You might have lost a job or a pet. You might have had to leave your country. So there are loads of different scenarios where a big loss can impact you very heavily. For me, one of the biggest losses that affected me in my past was the loss of my dad. And this man was a builder, as you know, he came from a building background. And over the last kind of few years of his life, I hadn't really been in touch with him that much, you know, because I was busy doing stuff. But when he died, it really had a massive impact on me. You know, when you lose somebody and you start thinking, I should have done this, I should have asked him this, I should have spent more time with him, I should have communicated to him more, I should have should have done this, should have done that. So for me it was very, very difficult for a good period of time. And in fact, almost everything I was doing was reminding me of him. I just couldn't get him off my mind. And it affected my motivation. It just affected my ability to talk to people, because I couldn't talk without falling into grief, basically. I couldn't really communicate to anybody. If they got anywhere personal, I just fell apart during that period of time. Okay? Now, I want to go over with you tonight what I did to handle it, both temporarily and then fully. Okay? But before I do, I want to start on the data from this webinar, but I want to get your perspective, if you don't mind, because I like to make these webinars personal, and especially if we've not like a packed capacity tonight, so it's perfect. I can give you some personal pieces of information that might relate to your personal scene. So my first ask of you tonight, I want to ask you if you yourself have a particular loss that you want to handle in yourself, or is there a loss that you'd like to help somebody else with? If you don't mind, would you please just have a little type in the chat and let me know, is there something that you have experienced that you have found it hard to move on from? Okay? If you don't want to share it, it's fine. I just want to get an idea about what are the areas of loss that we're handling, and so that I can kind of relate other things to it, give you maybe a few examples of it, to make it a bit more realistic, you know, because I don't want to give a webinar that's all kind of up in the air and all theoretical. So just take a moment, think of maybe why you came on this webinar. Was it because you want to handle a particular loss for yourself, or maybe you want to help somebody else with a loss? And if you could pop that in the chat, it would be absolutely fantastic. It gives me a bit of perspective. Okay, Griselda, and yours is, I want to know how to help around me. Fantastic. So you've obviously got people that you want to help, and this is really useful to know that information, what I'm going to be giving you tonight. Okay. If anybody else wants to pop in an example, please do so. And if I miss the chat, I will come back and check. Okay? And there's a few more coming in. End of long-term relationship, 18 years. Okay, I'm just going to write down titles here for myself, just so I can relate back. Okay. Yeah, and again, a loss of a long-term relationship can be as severe as losing somebody through death. It just simply can, because of the amount of investment of love, care, and attention you've put into the person. Then they're gone, and it can have a big impact. Thank you, Amar. Found hard to get over. I lost trust in parents. Okay. Yes, Jacqueline, that was the loss of my dad. Very, very difficult. I lost trust in parents. Okay. Okay. And innocence. Okay, thank you, Jacqueline. Yeah, and again, if you trust somebody, if you have a good friend, whether it's a parent or some colleague or just a best friend, and they betray your trust, you know, okay, they might still be living down the road, but it can be a massive loss. So it's a really good example. Thank you very much, Jacqueline. Okay, Dario, to have properties lost and a few £1 million. Well, that's a good one as well. So property and money. Yeah, I mean, even just losing one house. Imagine you're living in your house and all of a sudden the banks come and take it away. I mean, it is a massive loss because you have love for those pieces of property. It's not like a person can have love for many, many things. It's not just individuals. You can have a love for your country. You can have love for your house, the dog, your car, you know. And when these things are taken away suddenly, without your consent, like if you were built up to it and you kind of gave consent for these things to go, then it might not be so hard. But when it's taken away suddenly, it's very difficult. Okay, so thank you, Dario. David, loss of parent, partner. Okay, understood. Yeah, and a bit of self. Thank you, David. Yeah, we're going to be covering that very closely. Okay, and just partner. Okay, thank you very much, David. Deborah, grandmother, friendship. Okay, grandmom. And loss of aunt. Okay. Okay, so thank you very much, Deborah and David, for that. Much appreciated. So we've got a combination of things. We've got relatives, we have friends, we have parents, we have property, we have trust, relationships. You know, these things can have a massive, massive effect. Okay, so now, when we're dealing with losses, we're going to go into the meat and bones now, okay? When we're dealing with losses, there are temporary fixes, okay? Which will help you for the moment, okay? So for example, there's a particular technique that we recommend to people. I don't really want to go over that particular thing tonight. To help people to, you know, when you lose somebody close to you, everything reminds you of that person. You know, no matter where you go, you hear a song, or you go to the place where you used to spend time, or even a certain type of food. Things remind you of that person all the time. So there's this specific technique that we use to help a person to be able to separate out the things that are reminding them of the person versus the things that aren't reminding them. And so they're kind of able to see things a bit more clearly in life and to be able to live again. It doesn't really get to the root of the issue, but it's quite effective. Now, other people do all sorts of different things to handle losses, okay? So people get into exercise, okay? They try to get more, you know, spend time with friends, okay? Walking, okay? I don't know, go to the gym more, become busy. And this is another thing, actually, people, when they've lost somebody, to handle it, they just often try to become really, really busy so that they don't have to think about this. Okay, so they get busy, 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 and they try not to think about it, and it's workable. Taking walks is workable. Some people do meditation, which is beneficial as well. You know, you meditate and it helps and so forth, okay? And these are fine. And then when we look at the other end of the scale, when we look at extreme temporary fixes, we're talking about alcohol, drugs, and these drugs can be like painkillers or I don't know, like street drugs or whatever. So a person can start taking these to handle the loss. Unfortunately, these things are quite addictive, so it's not great. Yeah, and by the way, I like to take an opportunity in every webinar to let people know what my stance is on things. Because I have a stance, a personal stance on certain things. I've never agreed with drugging people to handle their sadness. Unfortunately, I don't know what it's like in other countries, in Switzerland or wherever country you're from, but in Ireland it's a very popular thing when you go to a professional and you say, okay, you know what, I'm very stressed out, I'm sad all the time, I'm upset, I'm grieving and whatever, and they recommend drugs basically. And those drugs are on the basis that the problem is all in the chemicals in your brain, and it's just a problem with the chemicals, and if you just fix the chemicals, everything will be roses in the garden. Even before I got involved in this subject, I didn't agree with that. Didn't like the philosophy, didn't like the idea. And yes, there's a use for these in certain circumstances. If the only thing that is going to stop a person from jumping over a bridge is something to calm them down, fine. But when we're talking about stress and so forth, pumping a guy full of drugs without recommending other alternative solutions is not something I like. I'm just not into it at all. Never agreed with it. Don't like it. I don't like the philosophy of, or the approach of, pump the guy full of drugs. It's a chemical imbalance in his brain. Let's slap him an emotional disorder, which we've just made up in a little book. He's got lost his father disorder. He's got too much of an attachment to people. Likes people too much. Likes people too much disorder. Slap him with a pill and off he goes. I don't agree with that. Rant over. Let's move on. Okay, now folks, so let's get into the meat and bones here. So all these things are beneficial, as I mentioned, and they do help. What I want to go over with you tonight is, I want to go over the technique which is in book 3, chapter 5 of this book. And this is why I've stuck with this subject for almost over 30 years. Only because it works. And that's it. Only because it works, and it creates effective, permanent results that are natural. There are no drugs involved. There's no hypnosis. None of that stuff. It is traditional therapy. Traditional. Just like the good old days, when you didn't have to pop a pill for every problem, you know? Just like the good old days. So if somebody is recommending to you, oh Joe, look, I'm sorry that you haven't gotten over your loss, what I'd recommend is that you see somebody about that. And that usually means getting a prescription, which is, I don't know, I don't like, you know, I don't want to step on toes, but, you know, I've got my personal viewpoint on those things. All right. Now, let me just see. One other thing I want to ask you. There are 2 popular things which people use to not handle their losses. One of them is time is a great healer. Okay? That's one of them that people use. And look, at least it's something. They kind of say, well, look, in time it'll be okay. So time, what I found is after you've had a loss, yes, time can help to some degree, but it doesn't completely handle the loss. And for a lot of people, it just, the loss keeps coming back. So it's not really a fact. This is not a fact. It just isn't. It might work for some people, but it's not concrete enough to really depend upon. Oh, I've lost my mother. I'll just wait for time to pass by and then it'll all be fine. It doesn't really fully handle the situation. Okay? And the next one is you can't get over a loss. You'll never get over a loss. Okay? These are a couple of things that I've heard from people, and somebody saying, look, you're never going to, it's never going to happen. If you've lost somebody close to you, you're never going to recover from that loss. And that's usually said by a person who has never recovered from his loss or her loss, or who has never seen their friend recover from their loss. Okay? Now, can I ask you before we move on, has anybody ever heard these expressions before? I'm saying them because I've heard them, particularly this one, to do it in Ireland anyway. I just want to find out, has anybody ever heard these expressions in life before? Give me a thumbs up or a yes, it would be great. Okay, I think I saw you nodding your head there, David. Thank you. Hello, Mick. Good to see you. Some other people joined. Great to see you. Hello, Amara, Dario, Lavinia, Victoria, Ash, and Alexander. Great to have you. Thank you so much. Okay, yes, Jacqueline, Amara, never the second one. Okay, got it. Mick, yes. Deborah, yes. And Griselda, of course, yeah. So they're kind of statements that people use, and it kind of helps them just to have the statement. It's not a full handling. So we're going to go into the full handling right now. And first of all, I'm going to just give you, before I give you the remedy and what you need to do to handle this fully, I want to give you a little bit of background to explain what's going on. Like, why is it that you can't move on from a loss? What should happen is, if you lose somebody close to you, you grieve for as long as it takes until you've grieved, and then you move on. That's really what should happen. Grieve for as long as you need, and then you're able to move on and live again. Because the person that you've lost usually doesn't want you to be stuck in the loss. Okay, so, so we have, this is your past, okay, and this is your future. And to be successful in your future, you need all of you there. You need all of you. You have a huge amount of vitality, of potential, of ability. And life can be very challenging. Not just to keep fit, to eat properly, to keep a relationship going, to help your children, to keep a job going, to not get fired, to run your business, to help your community. It can be very challenging. The price of food these days, everything gone up by 30%. You need all of you there in order to be able to create your future. Now, in your past, you have been learning things as you've been going along in your life. You've been learning things, okay? While you're awake, you've been learning things about your life and about how to deal with people, how to create a relationship, how to recover from things. You've been learning things. Okay? And you have a full record of what happened. And in this book, you'll find that there's a name we have for this, and it's called the time track. Okay? You have a complete record of everything that's happened to you in your past, right from day one, in all your awake moments. So now, let's not consider sleep for a moment. I'm going to ask you this question. Let's not consider sleep, because sleep is sleep, and it's got its own biological processes, and a person can also be aware during sleep. You notice on this time track, I've left a couple of gaps. Okay? Conscious, 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 conscious recording, unconscious. Conscious, 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 unconscious. Conscious, 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 unconscious. So these are little segments of unconsciousness here, okay? And there's stuff stored in here that happened and that was recorded while you were unconscious. Now, can anybody give me an example of something that could happen to a person which could cause them to be unconscious? Can you give me an example of something that could happen to a person that could cause them to be unconscious? Now, not taking sleep into consideration here, that's a whole talk for a different day. Not taking about sleep, an example of something that could cause you to be unconscious. Can you give me an example of that? Pop it into the chat. I'll take the first 10 answers. Okay. Okay, you can keep popping them in. Accident. Okay. An accident. Procrastinating. Procrastinating is the result of what I'm going to go over with you, but it wouldn't necessarily create a period of unconsciousness where you have no clue what's going on. You can't remember. So what we're talking about here are gaps. Gaps in this track where you cannot remember what happened. Okay? You remember here, you don't remember here. So that's just a procrastinating one. So what we have, car crash. Yeah, that fits into accident. A bone breaking, Griselda. Thank you. David, trauma. David, we're going to go over that in a minute. I'm not going to put it up on the board because I'm going to add to it. And Deborah, head injury, faint. Yes. Jacqueline, being under anesthetic. Yes, usually as a result of an operation. Okay. During those physically painful incidents, I'm talking about physical. I'm not talking about emotional just yet. Physical pain incidents that you've experienced. There is a moment, or a long moment, in that incident when there's a gap in this track when you were unconscious. Okay? Now, what happens is this. So let's just take one of these examples here. Let's see, somebody put in. We'll take Griselda's one. A broken bone, okay? Broken bone. Person breaks a bone, falls off a horse, breaks the bone, rushed to hospital, put under anesthetic, doctors fix the bone, and there's a lot of pain involved in the operation, but the person's unconscious, so doesn't feel it. But there is still pain there. There's a lot of pain going on in an operation, but the person doesn't feel it. Why? Because they're unconscious. So let's say that broken bone, this is the gap, and that incident is stored. So that incident has got information in it. Now, your time track, your own record of your past, has got these gaps with little packages of information from these gaps. You don't remember it, but it's still there. Okay? In Dianetics, we call these things engrams. It's just a name. Basically means written in. They're called engrams. So basically you have engrams in your past, which are records of moments of physical pain, impact, and unconsciousness. Now what happens is this. When you lose somebody close to you, okay, so let's say you're here and then you lose a close friend or a family member, okay? This loss attaches itself to this, okay? And now this gets added to the package, okay? This RIP gets added to the package. So when you lose somebody close to you, whether it's a parent, a friend, family member, somebody betrayed you, that incident gets attached to this incident. Now I'm going to throw out a question for you here, and that is why? What is the thing? So here's a loss, okay? You lose somebody close to you. What is the thing that connects that to that? Why is it that if you lose somebody close to you, that it could be potentially attached onto or connected with in some way A physical pain incident. How could that be? Does anybody want to guess? I think somebody's already. Amar, pain. Yes. Anybody else? Jacqueline, alcohol or drug use? Yes. Periods of low blood sugar? Yes. Good. Because they all result in an unconsciousness. Good. Okay, Amar says pain. Anybody else? What's the connection between an emotional loss and a physical injury? What is the connection? Any other guesses? Okay. So, Amar, you're very close. You're very close to it. The actual connection is this word here, loss. When you lose somebody close to you, it's the loss of a person. In a physical injury, there is also the loss of something in your body. What do you think that loss is? When you have a physical pain injury, there is also a loss. So what do you think is the loss? Yep. Okay, being weak and let be manipulated. Okay, yes, actually, Alexandra, that is a factor. That is a factor. And I think, what is the connection between an emotional loss and physical injury? Attachment. Okay. Thank you, Jacqueline. I'm not quite sure what the answer, I just see a question, I don't see an answer. But anyway, I get the point. Dario, loss of consciousness. Yes. So the primary thing would be loss. But as you both mentioned, there is pain. And when a loss comes in, there is an element of unconscious. So there's part unconscious. So when you lose somebody, there's an element of consciousness that goes downhill. So this is what connects the two. But the source of the unconsciousness is here. So if a person loses somebody and they become semi-conscious, it's generally rooted in these underlying hidden engrams. Okay, so now I want to just show you something here. So let's say you lose 3 or 4 people, you've lost a relationship, you've lost your grandparents, you've lost a friend, you've lost a husband, and you've got all these losses. We'll add these here. And actually, I want to just stick them in blue because I have a point to make in a moment. Okay, so you add all these losses here. Loss. We'll add on another loss here. We'll add on another loss to this one. You lost your pet. Lost a girlfriend. Lost a family member. All of these losses and moments of physical pain are all bunched together in this part of your thinking, which in Dianetics we call the reactive mind. Okay. Now I'm going to read to you, I'm getting to the point here on what you do to handle this in a second, but I just want to show you, when we're talking about the root of the issue, this is what we're talking about. And when I go over the steps, it's going to click together for you, okay? So these incidents that have happened to you in your past, accidents and injuries, and the losses that are connected to them, all make up a package called the reactive mind. And I'm going to read to you from the book, page 50, the definition of the reactive mind. Okay. The reactive mind is that portion of the mind. Okay? So it's a portion of the mind. This is the rest. All that stuff that you can remember and that's analytical. The reactive mind is that portion of the mind which files and retains physical pain and painful emotion. It files and retains physical pain and painful emotion and seeks to direct the organism. Okay? What it does is it seeks to control the person. It seeks to steer the person. It seeks to direct the person solely, I've got this verbatim now, I've read it out so much, solely, here's how it controls it, on a stimulus-response basis. I'm going to explain this word, don't leave the webinar because I wrote this on the board. On a stimulus-response basis. Stimulus response just means push button. Push button basis. So it seeks to control the organism or the person on a stimulus response or push button basis. Okay? There's a word here, stimulus, comes from the word stimula. And the word stimula is Greek, and it basically means a cattle prod. So in Greece, you can imagine the farmer, he goes out to his field and there's a cow there and he wants to get the cow into the shed. So he goes out with his stimula, his cattle prod, and he hits the cow on the behind, and the result of that stimula is the cow going that way. Automatic response. When he hits the cow does not stop and think and go, hang on a minute, what is the right thing to do in this situation? Should I go to the shed? Should I not? Maybe I'd like some more grass. I think I'll go to the other side. I think I'll just sit down. No. Every time, stimulus response. If you go to Trafalgar Square in London and there's pigeons all over the place, you clap your hand, the pigeons come up. Stimulus response. Like the knee-jerk test. You know, you hit somebody on their knee and the leg moves out. Stimulus response. So it's basically automatic action. So the reactive mind seeks to direct the organism on a stimulus response basis. And I'll give you an example of this in a minute. This is why it's called reactive. It doesn't think. The way it thinks is, it thinks only in identities. In other words, what happened here is the same as this. Anything equals anything equals anything. And what's out here is the same as that. So let me give you a little example of this. Let's say here you lost a girlfriend when you were 15. You were going out with her for 3 years. She was your first true love. And you suffered from a massive broken heart. And you wouldn't leave your room for 6 months. A massive loss here. Okay? So let's say that that's age 15. Okay? Now, here you are. Now I've run out of space. Age 25, you're going out in a new relationship. It's going fine. You're starting to like this girl. It's 6 months. It's looking good. And then you have your first big argument. And she storms out of the room, slams the door, and says the following. I don't even know why I got involved with you. The reactive mind is trying to protect you from what it thinks is danger in the future. So it stores up this package underneath the surface to automatically protect you from what it thinks is a dangerous situation again. So if it thinks you're going to suffer another loss, it's going to steer you away. So, in this example, the guy is 25. His girl says, I don't know why I got involved with you. The reactive mind thinks, okay, this situation is the same as this situation here. This loss here. It's the same thing. Even though it isn't. The reactive mind doesn't think logically. It just thinks, okay, there's enough similarity here to what happened here. So what we're going to do is tell this boy, listen, get away. Move away from that situation. And if you don't, what happens is the reactive mind will replay that incident for you to remind you of what it was like. And this is where the tears come back. So age 25, the girl storms out, slams the door, and this guy breaks down in convulsive tears. Why? It's not the argument. It's not the present argument. It's the trigger of the past loss which has never been handled. So the tears are not coming from the argument, they're coming from a buried incident that he's probably forgotten about, which is affecting him currently. If you have not been able to get over a loss, it means that it's still there, it's still sitting there, it's not been handled. It's still stuck in this reactive mind. But the reason it keeps coming out is because there are things in your environment, or even yourself, things that you do, that keep it triggered. Okay? Now, you might not do it intentionally. So, for example, let's say the guy lost his girl, and every time he hears a certain love song, he gets really upset. That's an example of something external triggering the reactive mind. Remember, it doesn't think, it only reacts. It's a push-button part of the mind. It only reacts. It doesn't think. Another example would be he lost a girl. Let's say they used to go to a restaurant together at the age of 15. He passes by the restaurant, and all of a sudden he feels sad, but he doesn't know why. So what's happening there is the sight of the restaurant is triggering off the loss of his girl, and he doesn't even know it. In many cases, he doesn't even think, oh yeah, this reminds me of the loss of my girl. No, it's coming in automatically, without his consent. So to summarize this, your reactive mind is the part of your mind which stores all your losses and painful experiences, and it's not under your control. All it takes is something similar to happen again to trigger the whole thing off. And this is why I don't recommend always doing the temporary fixes, because getting involved in fitness or, getting yourself really, really, really busy in work will work for a time. But if something goes wrong, the whole deck of cards can fall down. So, my next exercise for you is this. Earlier on, you gave me some examples of things, of losses that you've had, where it's parent, friendship, property, losing trust, and so forth. Can you give me an example of something in your life that happens, or that you see, something that you hear, something that you experience, that triggers it off? That you think could trigger it off. Can you put in a chat an example of something in life that triggers you? Is it an argument? Is it somebody criticizing you? Is it seeing a very emotional movie? Is it going to the same park where you used to go? Is it visiting your mother's house, your grandparents' house? Is it scrolling on Facebook and seeing all these people really happy in friendships? So give me one example of one thing in your life that triggers you and that can make you upset very easily. Because this is the reactive mind in operation. It's designed to protect you, to steer you away and remind you of what it was like. Okay? Okay, any examples coming in? Okay, let's see. Thank you, Jacqueline. Yes, very good. A sense of, you give me the full definition. Really appreciate that. Nice to have it there for everybody. Thank you. We'll have to hire you, Jacqueline. Great at that stuff. Okay, literally everything. Okay, Amar, thank you. I mentioned this before on one of my previous webinars, that when I lost my dad, right, and I got some help to recover from it, I had an amazing realization when I was coming back to myself again. My dad was a builder, okay? And one of the biggest things that I didn't realize was reminding me of my dad all the time was, believe it or not, walls. Because he was a builder. He built walls all the time. He built an extension on our house years ago. And so he built walls. So when I'm seeing walls, I used to always think of my dad. And it was going on in the background. And when I spotted that, I'm like, geez, that's interesting. So, I mean, it could be anything. And sometimes you're not even aware of what's triggering you. Okay? So, thank you very much. Amar, Let me just see. Jacqueline, not aware of what triggers thoughts of the loss of trust of innocence. Okay, Jacqueline, no problem. Often what's happening is you don't know what's triggering you, but when you start to clear this up, it starts to come to mind. Okay? Dario, just the word of property triggers my losses. Okay, Dario, thank you so much. I can imagine. David, places of the past, recently returned to Ireland from living abroad a few years. Yeah, so you visited places where you used to know somebody, and it brings it all back again, and it makes you sad. Okay? Thank you, David. Alexander, the fact I was evicted on streets during level 5, separated from my children, to this day I was not allowed to pack myself. Amazing. Thank you, Alexandra. And I can imagine what the triggers are there. Mick, if I see any animal being hurt in my way, it comes back what I did to a dog. Okay, and there was a loss there, and then the hurting of animals triggers it off. So, thank you very much, folks. I really appreciate that. One might ask then, okay, Vincent, simple solution. We'll get rid of all the triggers. Great. Fine. You can move to another country. You can change house. You could change relationship. And it might have workability to some degree. But if this isn't fully handled, all it's going to take is for something similar to go wrong again to bring it all back. So let's go into the solution right now. So the solution is not to constantly try and focus on fitness, and even though these things are good, I'm not saying don't do these things, but I'm just saying as a solution for your losses to just be extra busy, okay? There's an exact thing that you do to handle these losses, and you have to do it. It's as simple as that. It's the only way I know that a person can completely clear this stuff and get back to themselves again. So I'm going to tell you what that is. Okay, and by the way, this is not a 5-minute fix. It's not a 5-minute pat on the back, off you go, there you go, happy days, see you later. Sometimes you go to a professional and say, oh, you've had many, many losses. Don't worry. Just take that once a day and you'll be fine. That's not a fix. Let's be honest. Okay, so in Dianetics, this is explained in Book 3, Chapter 5 of this book, which I'll be promoting at the end to you. I have a little special offer, which I want to tell you about. Okay. In Dianetics, we do a thing called auditing. Okay? And the word auditing means to listen and to guide. It comes from audire, which means to listen. Dianetics, and this is bad news. I'll give you good news in a few minutes. This is bad news. Or it could be good news. You need 2 people. You need help on this. It is not possible to completely clear this stuff up solo. You can try, but it might have some desensitizing effect, but it doesn't really clear the stuff completely from my experience. Okay? Auditing means to listen and to guide. So you have 2 people, the person who's delivering it, and you can learn how to deliver auditing in the book. If you want to help people, you can learn from the book how to deliver auditing. The person who's delivering it is called the auditor. The person who listens and guides. And the person who's receiving it, the help, has their eyes closed in a session. That's all. Eyes closed, but wide awake, and the only reason their eyes are closed is to take their attention off the environment, because very difficult to handle this stuff with your eyes open. Eyes closed. And the name we give to this person is pre-clear. Pre means before, and clear is basically an end result in Dianetics. So Dianetics is not a way of life. It's not something that you have to do 15 minutes a day. It's something that you do until this stuff is cleared. And the result of that is this state called clear, which is basically, all it means is you back to yourself again. What the auditor is doing in a session is he's getting this person, while wide awake, to return to the loss. Okay? Not just talk about it in the past tense, but re-experience it, and using the exact steps 1 to 10, which are explained in Book 3, Chapter 5. It's very straightforward. What you're essentially doing is you're getting the guy to return to the loss and go over it with the auditor, but using exact steps. And it's based on communication, which is the most traditional method of helping another person. Before all this drugs business came on and hypnotizing people, it was just communication. If you have a problem and you tell a friend, it will make you feel better because it's natural therapy. So this gentleman, because he did a lot of travels this guy traveled all around the world. He did a lot of his research in Eastern Asia and combined that with his researches in the West and came up with these procedures, okay? Steps 1 to 10, you do that over and over until that loss is fully handled. And what happens is the pain goes, okay? The pain and the stress goes. Now the auditor's job, this person's job, he is not a life coach. He does not give advice to the pre-clear. He does not tell the pre-clear what he thinks. He does not tell the pre-clear, well, the reason that you're so upset is because you're stuck in 3 losses. They're connected to the loss and your pain. He doesn't get into that. In fact, he's not allowed. The auditor's job is to guide the pre-clear through the loss, through communication, until it's completely handled. And to listen. There's no giving opinions or telling, now you should do this now, don't worry about it, it's only a loss. The most useful part of the auditor's anatomy are his ears. Okay? Listen, acknowledge, guide. Now, so, if you have had a loss that hasn't been handled, if you're not over a loss, all it means is that this particular procedure has not been completed. If that is completed, that will completely handle your loss. It may take a while. It's usually more than 5 minutes. It can take a couple of hours. It can take 5 boxes of Kleenex tissues because you're crying so much. But the result will be a refreshed you able to move on in life again, a recovered you. Now, it does happen sometimes that if you try to handle a loss and it doesn't clear up, you might have had a loss for years, you've cried about it so much, you've talked about it, and it's still affecting you. And you've used this procedure and it's still affecting you. What that means is that there's an earlier, let me just have a look. There's an earlier similar loss. Earlier similar loss that it's connected to. In other words, the reason you can't get over this loss is because you're not just dealing with this loss, you're dealing with another one as well, which is connected to it, but which is buried. So the pain is coming up from here, and so here we have the source of the pain. Now if this doesn't get handled, using steps 1 to 10, you keep going earlier, using steps 1 to 10, until you get to the basic. And once you get to the basic on that chain, that clears it up. The point is this: if you have not handled your loss, whether it's, parent, friend, family member, aunt, partner, your property, your money, loss of trust, long-term relationship, it's simply because it hasn't been handled properly. You haven't known how to handle it, and others haven't known exactly how to completely handle that. How do I know this? How can you believe that Vincent, all of this guy on Zoom or Facebook or whatever, has all of a sudden come up with the solution? No. I found this guy's work. He spent many, many years researching this stuff. I've tried it. I've used it for over 30 years. It works. And it creates lasting results. And a person recovers their vitality. Because remember that your vitality, if you are suffering from lack of vitality or enthusiasm in life, a big, big part of that are these losses which have trapped your vitality. And I say trapped. I don't mean killed it. I mean trapped your vitality. So the way to handle it is to simply burst those bubbles, because they are holding in your vitality. And if you burst that one and locate this one and burst that, it comes back. And how do I know that? Because I myself have handled huge losses in my past. I've recovered huge amounts of energy and vitality, and it has never left me. And I'm talking about years ago. The surprising thing is with me, and I have done this on other chains of incidents, one of my chains was loss of, I don't know, a friend or something, uncle, and then granddad. Granddad was at the basic of my chain, and I swear to you, when I went over this in a Dianetics session, I bawled my eyes out for probably 2.5 hours solid, buckets of tears. But at the end of it, because that was the root incident, I just felt I got my life back. And I want that for you too. It's very simple. It's very straightforward. I want for you what I got. The recovery of life and vitality and energy. And not just for 5 minutes, or while I'm jogging, or this or that or the other. I mean stably, back again. Okay? So this is the problem. The procedure of Dianetics is the root. And I'm going to now tell you what I recommend. But before I do, I want to just check, does anybody on the chat have any questions? I'm going to read some comments here in a moment. Before I show you what I've prepared for you for tonight, I want to just see if anybody has any questions. Okay. Oh, no, there's none. Okay. If you do, please pop them into the chat, and I'd be happy to answer them. So I want to go, before I present what I've got here, a quick summary. Okay? The reason that you can't get over a loss is because it was a traumatic loss for you, because you invested love and energy and time and passion and hopes and dreams into that person or thing that you lost. There are temporary handlings, like going for walks, like different things that you can do to help you on an immediate basis, meeting up with friends, keeping busy. But you're much better off to handle the root of the problem. The root of the problem is what we call in Dianetics the reactive mind, which stores up packages of losses and physical pain. When that stuff is cleared up, you literally recover your life. So, I'm going to take this opportunity to recommend for you what's next. I've taken a lot of your time tonight, so I just want to show you what I'd recommend for you next. Okay? Now, education is number one. You can listen to Vincent all the time till the cows come home. He's a great guy, and he's after telling some really interesting things. You can turn off your Zoom tonight or your Facebook and forget all about it and say, that was great, now let's turn on Netflix. Or walk the dog. And by all means, enjoy that. I mean, I like Netflix and I like walking, I don't have a dog anymore, but walking the cat, let's say. You can do these things, right? But if you want to handle a loss, what I recommend strongly, strongly, strongly is to make up your own mind about this subject. And so I've recommended you get a copy of the book, and I want to show you what that is. All right? So I'm going to share with you the screen right now. Okay? So here we go. Okay, so what is this Dianetics book all about? So you're going to learn how to permanently resolve the effects of losses and traumas. It's a bit faded looking for some reason. Lack of self-esteem, anxiety. I didn't even know what I read. Oh, this is the my internet connection. Anxiety, negative thoughts, and regain your full potential. And it's translated into 50 languages. So you can literally get this book in practically any language. Like 50 languages is a lot of languages. But it's a very practical book. It's a handbook which explains to you all about your mind, how it works, and exactly how to clear up the pain from the past and to help somebody else as well using the exact procedure. Okay? There are 3 books in this one book. Book 1 explains to you, let me just go over this. The goal of Dianetics. Book 2 is about the mind, how the mind makes the body ill, what happens in the womb. Book 3 is therapy, shows you all the basics that you need to know. You will come across some new terms in this book, but there's a beautiful glossary at the end which explains every single word that you might not fully get. Okay? So that's all the book, and I would strongly recommend you get a copy of this book, read it for yourself, and make up your own mind. And then if you're interested, come into our centre and get yourself a session of auditing. Now, to encourage you, if you get this book tonight, I'm also going to include, and there's going to be a link going up shortly, I'm going to include this little booklet. Okay? It's called The Dianetics of Grief. So L. Ron Hubbard wrote a specific article on grief, which is not contained in the book. It was a special article for people who are in grief, and it is inspiring. It is a beautiful, beautiful article, and it's very touching, it's very real, and it basically inspires hope. All right? So I'm going to give you this booklet as well. If you get the book Dianetics tonight, and there's going to be a link going up, I'm going to give you this for free, and the book and the little booklet will be posted out to you as soon as possible. Okay. Now, the second thing is that if you want to dive straight in and find out what this is all about, you can come in and get yourself a free session of Dianetics auditing. You can get yourself a free session of Dianetics auditing at your convenience. Right? Now, as I said, I number one recommend people get the book because it's an opportunity to find out for yourself what the subject is about and how to fix your problem. We don't just throw you out with the book, by the way, and say, oh, there you go, there's the book, good luck with that. We do seminars and workshops to help you to be able to apply it, because it's in the application that you get the results. Okay? So, there's a free session where you come in, maybe 2.5 hours, you get to experience some of this, and you can see what it's like yourself. And then you can decide after that, oh, I'm not ready for it, or I am ready for it, or I'd like to get the book instead, or whatever, or you want to get trained on it. A lot of people want to get trained up to become auditors. I have, and I'm a trained auditor myself. So right now, we're going to put up a little poll. If you could just hang on for 2 minutes, and then I'm going to wrap up the webinar. Fill in the poll that is going to appear on your screen right now. Just take a moment to fill that in for me, and then we will wrap up. I have some inspiring words to let you know at the very end, okay? So just take a moment to fill that in for me, please. Just take a moment. It's a little survey just to find out what areas you might be interested in. I'm going to take it from there. Just take that for 2 minutes, and I'll come over some of the comments that have come in there at the end, okay? And then at the end, I might just open it up for some questions. If anybody has any questions, you can ask me at the end. But if you just don't mind, take a moment to fill in that little survey, and then we will wrap up. Okay, so we'll just give it another minute or so to allow anybody else to just finish it off. That would be great. Yes. While you're filling in that survey, I might as well answer the question that just came in here from Amar. What does the auditor do? Just ask leading questions? No, he doesn't ask leading questions. There is a very specific and exact procedure that the auditor follows in every single case. There's a very exact thing that he asks the pre-clear to do to go back to an incident. Now, there are certain questions that the auditor can ask when the person is in the middle of an incident and they're trying to resolve it. The auditor can ask questions like what the person can see and feel, taste, smell, these kind of things. And all those questions are laid out in the book. So it's not, see, sometimes what auditors do when they're starting off is they get the idea that they've got to invent ways to help this pre-clear. It's already laid out. You don't have to worry about any of that. The procedure and the questions that you ask are already laid out. And you don't alter. There's a couple of things that you can add in terms of asking a person about what they see, what they feel, what they hear, but that's it. There's none of this, well, what do you think about your relationship with your Uncle Joe who died in the war? There's none of that, because you get the pre-clear into a situation where they get confused, and it's not good for a session. But you learn all about that in the actual book. Okay, so thank you very much, everybody, for filling in the webinar. If you chose on the survey to get a copy of the book with the free booklet, all right, there's a link that's just gone in there now that Sylvia's put in that you can click. Now, the link is going to stay there after the webinar is finished, so when you see me disappearing from the screen, that is going to still be there, so you can check it out then, or you can click on it now. So if you get it tonight, as I mentioned, I'm going to be sending this little booklet out to you for free. And I would strongly encourage you to do that, because it'll be the start of your journey on really learning about yourself and learning how to help yourself and other people. Okay? If you chose on the survey to get yourself a free session of Dianetics auditing, just send a message to Sylvia and she'll work out with you a convenient time for you to come in for the session and give you all the details about it. Okay? So I want to just go over, before we wrap up, if anybody has any questions before we finish, please take this opportunity now to pop it into the chat and I will answer your questions. I just want to acknowledge a few of the comments. I think my father is the root, but not sure. Okay, I get that. Well, I mean, it all depends, Corey, on what is the incident from the past, what happened. A person can think, well, okay, it's my dad or it's my mom, it's something that happened, it's something that they did years ago. Maybe that is a factor, but it's up to you yourself to discover it. In other words, the auditor in a session is just going to guide you through the incidents and help you to uncover chains of buried stuff. And you're the one that's going to make your own realization. The auditor is never going to say at any point, you know, Corey, it was your dad. Your dad is the problem, or it was because of this. It is never going to happen, and it shouldn't happen. It's going to be the person who's receiving it who makes that realization themselves. Okay? Amar, how does one find out all the losses? By peeling off the layers, Amar. When you start in Dianetics auditing, as I drew on the board, you take the first immediate one that's visible. You use the exact steps of Dianetics on it, and when you do, and you've peeled it off, if it's handled, perfect. Then you pick the next one, which will become visible. If it doesn't, it will uncover the next one down lower on the chain, the earlier similar one. So it's like peeling an onion. You're basically taking off the layers to find out what's underneath. And you're better off looking than avoiding. Okay, I hope that helps. Okay, and Jacqueline gave me a nice act there. Thank you, Jacqueline. Corey, can it also be the loss of the company? Absolutely, 100% it can. If you lose the company, your business, whatever it is, 100%. It could be the loss of a company. It could be the loss of trust of somebody. It could be having to move your country. It could be the loss of your car. It could be the loss of a pet that you loved. Those all clarify it. Okay? Very good. Is the book easy to follow, or do I have to rely on some of your seminars? No, actually, you don't have to rely on the seminars, Amar. The book contains all the data that you need in order to run a Dianetics session. Okay? As I mentioned at the beginning of the book particularly, you will come across some new terms that you might not be familiar with, but the author is a genius, and he was a professional in terms of educating people as well. He developed we put together a beautiful glossary which will explain any words that you come across that you don't understand. And what we have found is that when a person understands the words, they will understand the chapter, and it's all going to click in. So you can absolutely read the book and apply it straight from the book. All right? And if, let's say, you need to find somebody to work with that you can audit, and that's someone to audit you, let us know, because we run seminars regularly and we can organize that for you. Even if you can't come in or you're down the country or whatever, we can help to set up something for you to work it out. The seminars are available, and if a person wants to come in and get going with a co-auditing means cooperative auditing partner, they can use the seminar to avail of that, and it's usually a weekend type of thing. So I hope that helps you. Victoria, you're very welcome. I hope it was good, beneficial for you. And Corey, you're very welcome. Okay, folks. So it doesn't look like there's any questions. I want to finish off the webinar. I know we've gone a little bit over. I want to say thank you all so much for everybody on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram for, first of all, watching this video. And particularly for everybody on Zoom, I really genuinely appreciate all your comments, questions, and your participation. It means a lot to me. It helps me to be able to deliver this webinar. I hope the information that I provided to you is useful to you. I hope it helped you, and I really, really do hope to see you in an auditing session, getting yourself some auditing as soon as possible, and getting yourself a copy of this book so you can educate yourself, okay? Because that's where all the answers are. So thank you very much, Mick, and for having your camera on again. Really appreciate it. Great to have you. Thank you. Griselda, thank you. Deborah, Amar, Dario, Alexandra, and Victoria. Folks, thank you all so much for your time. The chat is going to stay open there for anybody who wants to click on the link and get the book. But aside from that, I will be gone, and I hope to see you all sometime soon, maybe at another future webinar, or even in here in session, ideally. Okay, folks, have a beautiful rest of your evening. Bye for now.